The East Village, before NYU students took over, was the center of punk rock and counterculture in New York, where artists and musicians and people running from normal life could afford to live and create. And if you remember that version, you know it was grimy and dangerous and electric, in a way the current dorm-filled sanitized student housing version will never be, because what used to be the most rebellious neighborhood in the city is now just an extension of a college campus. Tell me if you remember the real East Village, because this transformation hurts. CBGB on the Bowery was where punk rock was born, where the Ramones and Patti Smith and Blondie played before anyone knew who they were, a dive bar that smelled like beer and history and felt like you were witnessing something that mattered, and when it closed in 2006 to become a John Varvatos boutique, it felt like the final death of punk in the neighborhood that created it. St. Mark's Place was the center of everything. Record stores and tattoo shops and vintage clothing and people who looked like they didn't belong anywhere else all congregating on one block. And now it's froyo shops and NYU dorm buildings and students dressed like they bought their rebellion at Urban Outfitters. Tompkins Square Park was where activists and homeless people and artists would gather. The Tompkins Square riots in '88, when police tried to enforce a curfew and the neighborhood fought back because the park belonged to the people, not the city. And that energy of resistance and community is completely gone now that the park is surrounded by luxury buildings and students studying on the lawn. The squats on Avenue C, where people actually lived in abandoned buildings, creating their own communities outside the system. And yeah, it was illegal and dangerous, but it was also proof that you could exist in New York without money if you were willing to fight for space. And when the city evicted everyone and turned those buildings into condos, it killed that possibility. The poetry readings at the Nuyorican Cafe, where spoken word mattered before it became a TED Talk format. And going there meant hearing raw, unfiltered voices from people who had something to say, not students workshopping their creative writing assignments. The bars that didn't card where 18-year-olds could drink next to 50-year-old artists, and nobody cared because the East Village was about freedom, not rules, and now every bar checks ID 3 times because NYU threatened to shut them down if they serve underage students. The affordable rent that let artists actually live there, 1-bedroom apartments for $600 a month that gave people space to create,